Hello, dear friends. What you're about to watch is a real-life story, raw, honest, and deeply human. As you listen, we ask just one thing: please don't judge. Instead, open your heart and share your sincere thoughts in the comments, because sometimes a simple opinion can spark healing. To protect those involved, names and locations have been changed, but the emotions and lessons are real. This story is shared to educate, to inspire, and to remind us that none of us are alone. If you have a story of your own, one born from pain, growth, or survival, you're welcome to share it with us at revsonlife@gmail.com. Your story might be the light someone desperately needs while walking through a dark chapter of their life, helping them make a better decision before it's too late. If this story touches you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your loved ones. You never know whose life it might change. We pray that everyone watching finds light in their darkest moments, strength in their weakness, and hope when it feels lost. And above all, please remember to take care of your health, body, mind, and soul. Now, let's begin.
I'm standing in my apartment when the phone rings. It's my father. I haven't heard his voice in 31 days, not since I signed over everything I built to my brothers, Daniel and Marcus. Victoria, he says, and I can hear him breaking. Come home. The company, it's gone. Gone. That word doesn't make sense. Hayes Industries was worth $50 million 31 days ago. I spent 12 years turning our dying textile factory into an empire. 12 years of 18-hour days, destroyed relationships, and choices I'll never be proud of. What do you mean, gone? I ask, even though I already know. Bankruptcy. The investors are suing. 700 people lost their jobs overnight. The press is calling it the fastest corporate collapse in state history. My reflection stares back at me from the window. I look older than 35. Tired. Hollow. Where are Daniel and Marcus? Silence. Then, they left the country 3 days ago. Private jet to Monaco. Victoria, I need you. Please. I hang up without answering. Because the daughter he needs died the day he told me the company needed a man's name on the door. 12 years ago, I was 23 with a full scholarship to Columbia Business School. My future was mine, until my father called me into his study. Hayes Textiles is failing, he said, not looking at me. Your brothers are too young. I need you to come home and fix this. Not, I believe in you. Not, you're the only one smart enough. Just, I need you. I dropped out the next day. Daniel was 19 then, driving a Porsche bought with his trust fund. Marcus was 17, failing out of his second college. But I didn't resent them. Not yet. I thought if I saved the company, my father would finally see me as more than the daughter he never wanted. I moved back home and started working in that factory, the smell of machine oil and desperation soaking into my clothes. I learned every process, every contract, every weakness. I worked until my hands bled and my eyes couldn't focus. My brothers? They kept spending. At Sunday dinners, my father would toast his boys and their potential. I'd sit at the end of the table, invisible, my accomplishments absorbed into the background like wallpaper. I stopped going to those dinners in year 3. But I never stopped working. 2 years in, Hayes Industries needed a miracle. We were competing for a $2 million contract against companies 10 times our size. Without it, we'd fold within months. The client was Richard Brennan, powerful, connected, and very clear about his terms during our private dinner meeting. I'm building a new development downtown, he said, swirling his wine. There's a city inspector who's being difficult about certain structural concerns. Convince him to retire early, and the contract is yours. I should have walked away. Instead, I spent 3 nights staring at the ceiling, calculating how many families would lose everything if I said no. Then I made the call. The inspector received a generous consulting fee. Brennan signed the contract. Hayes Industries survived another year. I told myself it was just once. A necessary compromise. That I'd never have to choose between right and survival again. I was wrong. Over the next decade, there would be more Brennans. More inspectors. More NDAs signed by employees who saw too much. More money moved through shell companies I created to hide what we were becoming. Each choice took a piece of my soul. But the company grew. 50 million in revenue. 3 factories. International contracts. My father never asked questions. He just smiled at board meetings and took all the credit. I met James in year 4. He taught high school history, patient, kind, everything my family wasn't. When he proposed on my 29th birthday, I actually believed I could have both, the company and a life. We lasted 6 months. Then came the Chicago crisis. One of our factories caught fire. 3 workers injured. Lawsuits threatened to destroy everything I'd built. I flew out immediately, spending 3 weeks bribing safety officials, settling claims under the table, burying evidence of code violations I'd approved to cut costs. I came home at 2 in the morning to find James packing his suitcase. "I can't do this anymore," he said, looking at the Hayes Industries files I'd brought to bed again. "You're not even here when you're here. You've already chosen them over us." I wanted to argue. To tell him he was wrong. But I was holding a burner phone I used for deals I couldn't let anyone trace back to me. He left that night. I went back to work the next morning. People ask me sometimes if I regret losing him. The truth? I didn't lose James in that moment. I lost him the day I decided Hayes Industries mattered more than my own happiness. By year 8, I'd built something remarkable. Hayes Industries, 50 million in annual revenue, 3 factories, contracts across 4 continents. People called me brilliant. Ruthless. Untouchable. They didn't know about the foundation. The bribes to bypass environmental regulations when our waste disposal costs got too high. The payoffs to union leaders who threatened strikes. The NDAs for employees who discovered the accounting irregularities. The silent partnership with a shell company that laundered money through our international accounts. I kept records of everything. Emails. Bank transfers. Recorded conversations. My insurance policy, I called it, proof that if I went down, I wouldn't go down alone. My father knew some of it. The surface level compromises. He'd nod and say, "Do what you have to do." Then he'd go back to bragging about his company at country club lunches. Daniel and Marcus? They knew nothing. They were too busy spending trust fund money on sports cars and failed ventures to care how the empire actually worked. I told myself I was protecting them. Keeping their hands clean. But really? I was enabling them. Teaching them that success came without sacrifice. That they deserved everything I'd bled for without earning a single moment of it. Those secrets were supposed to protect me. Instead, they became the knife my family would use to destroy everything I'd built. My 35th birthday. No cake. No celebration. Just another 16-hour day at the office, until my father called me into his study at 8 p.m. Daniel and Marcus were already there. Standing by the fireplace like this was some kind of intervention. My father poured whiskey into 3 glasses. Not 4. The message was clear. "Victoria, you've done incredible work," he began, not meeting my eyes. "But the board has raised concerns. Our major investors, particularly the ones from the Middle East and Asia, they're uncomfortable with a female CEO. It's affecting our expansion opportunities." I stared at him. 12 years. 12 years of my life. "You want me to step down?" "Temporarily," he said quickly. "Daniel will take over as CEO. Marcus as CFO. You'll stay on as senior advisor. It's what's best for the company. For the family." I looked at my brothers. Daniel examined his fingernails. Marcus couldn't hide his smile. You understand, don't you, Victoria? My father asked. I understood perfectly. I'd never be enough. No matter what I built. No matter what I sacrificed. I'd always be the daughter, not the son. That night, I signed every document they put in front of me. Every contract. Every account. Every secret I'd buried. I handed my life to the two men who'd never built anything except debt. Week 1 under Daniel's leadership, he fired my entire executive team. 20 years of combined experience, gone. He replaced them with his fraternity brothers, men who'd never run anything larger than a bar tab. Week 2, he moved headquarters to a luxury building in the financial district. Triple the rent. Floor-to-ceiling windows and Italian marble. Image matters, he told the staff. Week 3, Marcus threw a $200,000 investor party on a yacht. Cristal champagne. Caviar. A DJ flown in from Miami. I watched the photos on social media. Not a single actual investor attended. I tried to intervene. I scheduled a meeting with Daniel to discuss the bleeding cash reserves. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Relax, Vic. This is how real business works. You were always too conservative. Too afraid to think big." I went to my father. Showed him the numbers. The trajectory. We had maybe 90 days before serious damage became permanent. He patted my hand like I was a child who didn't understand adult things. Give them time, Victoria. They're finding their rhythm. Every leader has a learning curve. On day 23, I received an anonymous email. One sentence, check account number 4187. They're not learning. They're stealing. I pulled the financial records that night. Account number 4187 was a discretionary fund I'd created for emergency investments and strategic opportunities. It should have had $12 million in it. It had $700,000. In 3 weeks, Daniel and Marcus had withdrawn $4.2 million. The memo line on every transfer read the same thing, business development. I traced the money. Every transaction. Every destination. Private jets to Monaco and Dubai. A penthouse apartment registered in Daniel's name. Designer clothes. Casino transactions in Marcus's name totaling $800,000. Luxury cars. Watches worth more than our factory workers made in a year. They weren't running the company. They were looting it. I sat in my apartment until sunrise, staring at the evidence. Then I got dressed and drove to the office. My hands shook as I swiped my key card. Access denied. I tried again. Same message. The security guard, someone I'd known for 8 years, wouldn't look at me. I'm sorry, Ms. Hayes. I was told to revoke your credentials this morning. Mr. Daniel Hayes's orders. I called Daniel 17 times. He didn't answer. By noon, my name had been removed from every account, every contract, every system. They'd erased me completely. Day 31. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Creditors. Lawyers. Journalists. All asking the same question, did you know Hayes Industries was filing for bankruptcy? I turned on the news. There it was. My company, my life, imploding on every channel. Hayes Industries, once valued at $50 million, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Sources indicate severe financial mismanagement and potential fraud. 700 employees were laid off via email this morning. Former CEO Victoria Hayes could not be reached for comment. Former CEO Victoria Hayes. They were already blaming me. Every article mentioned my name first. My 12 years of leadership. The questionable practices under my tenure. Daniel and Marcus were described as new management who discovered the extent of the financial crisis. My father finally called at noon. His voice was barely a whisper. Victoria. Please come home. I don't know what to do. The lawyers, the creditors, they're saying we could lose everything. The house. The legacy. Everything your grandfather built. Where are Daniel and Marcus? I asked. Long silence. They left yesterday. Private jet to Monaco. They're not answering my calls. I hung up and opened my laptop. The hidden drive. The one with every dirty secret, every illegal deal, every crime I'd committed to save Hayes Industries. If I was going down, I wasn't going down alone. I walked into the Hayes family mansion 3 days later. My father looked like he'd aged 20 years. Gray. Thin. Broken. Thank God you're here, he said, reaching for me. I stepped back. Where are they? Monaco. They won't return my calls. Victoria, the board is threatening to sue us personally. The investors want criminal investigations. I need you to fix this. That's when I felt it. The old pattern trying to reassert itself. The dutiful daughter, coming home to clean up the mess. No, I said. He blinked. What? I'm not fixing this. You gave them the company. You chose them over me. You let them erase me from everything I built. This is your mess. But Victoria. Did you know? I asked quietly. Did you know what they were planning? His silence told me everything. You knew they'd destroy it. You knew they were stealing. And you let them because you couldn't admit that your sons are parasites and your daughter was the only one who ever gave a damn about this family. I turned to leave. That's when he said it, there's something else. Something I need to tell you about Daniel and Marcus. About what they really did. Have you ever had a parent look you in the eye and prove they never believed in you? Drop a comment, because what my father told me next changed everything. My father pulled out a manila folder from his desk drawer. His hands trembled as he opened it. 6 months ago, Daniel came to me with a proposal. He wanted to sell Hayes Industries to a private equity firm. I said no. But he kept pushing. He said you'd run the company into the ground with your outdated methods. That you were too risk-averse. Too emotional. I felt ice spreading through my chest. He had Marcus backing him up. They had presentations. Financial projections. They made it sound so logical. So I thought, if I gave them control, let them try, they'd finally understand how difficult it is. They'd appreciate what you built. They'd fail and come back humbled. So this was a test? My voice didn't sound like mine. You gambled 12 years of my life on teaching your sons a lesson? I thought I could control it, he whispered. I thought they'd struggle for a few weeks and then beg you to come back. I'd refuse, make them work for it, and then we'd all come together as a family. Stronger. But they didn't struggle, I said. They had a plan. He nodded and slid a document across the desk. At the top of the page was a name I recognized, Richard Brennan. The man from my very first deal. Richard Brennan. The construction mogul I'd made my first compromise for 10 years ago. The man who taught me that success required getting your hands dirty. Brennan approached Daniel 8 months ago, my father said. He offered him a partnership. They'd bankrupt Hayes Industries together, buy it for pennies during liquidation, then restructure it under Brennan's holdings. Daniel and Marcus would get $18 million for their cooperation. Brennan would get a $50 million company for $5 million. I read the contract. It was all there. The timeline. The asset stripping. The offshore accounts. My brother's signatures next to Brennan's. They planned this before I signed over control, I said slowly. Everything, the board concerns, the investor complaints, your speech about needing a male CEO, that was all theater to get me out. My father couldn't look at me. I didn't know about Brennan until 3 days ago. Daniel's lawyer sent me a copy by accident. I think he was trying to cover himself. I stood up, folder in hand. Do Daniel and Marcus know Brennan double-crossed them? What do you mean? I pointed to clause 17. Brennan had majority control. He could freeze their funds anytime. He could cut them out completely. They think they're partners, I said. But Brennan owns them. I spent 2 days locked in my old office, the one my father kept exactly as I'd left it. He thought it was sentimental. I knew it was guilt. I pulled every file I'd ever created on Richard Brennan. 10 years of records. The original bribe. The inspector who retired early. But also, 3 more inspectors over the years. Safety violations he'd paid me to hide. Environmental reports I'd falsified. Workers' comp claims I'd helped him bury. Brennan thought he was smart. He thought because he'd used me to do his dirty work, he had leverage over me. He forgot that I kept copies of everything. I made 3 phone calls. First, to Marcus Chen, an investigative journalist who'd been trying to nail Brennan for corruption for 5 years. I have everything you need, I said. Anonymous source. You'll get the exclusive. Second, to the SEC. I uploaded 17 years of suspicious transactions, shell company records, and offshore transfers. Gift wrapped with a bow. Third, to Daniel's cell phone. He answered on the first ring. I know what Brennan did, I said. I know he's freezing your accounts. I can help you get your money back. But you have to meet me. Tomorrow. Alone. He agreed immediately. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Daniel met me at a coffee shop downtown. He looked different. Thinner. Paranoid. His eyes darted to every person who walked through the door. Brennan froze our accounts, he said before I even sat down. He says we violated the partnership agreement. We can't access the money, Vic, $18 million, just gone. Good, I said. His face twisted. Good. Victoria, we had a deal. We were supposed to be set for life. You had a deal, I corrected. You and Marcus and the man who taught me how to destroy people for profit. You stole from 700 employees. From the company I built. What did you expect? Daniel leaned forward, and for a second I saw something dangerous in his eyes. I expected you to do what you always do. Roll over. Play the dutiful daughter. Take the blame. Move on with your sad little life. I stood up. I'm not that person anymore. I was halfway to the door when he called out, You think you're the only one with secrets, Vic? I know what you did to build that company. I have proof. And if you come after us, I'll make sure the whole world knows exactly what kind of person you really are. That night, an email arrived from Daniel. The subject line, Mutually Assured Destruction. Attached were copies of documents I thought I'd hidden forever. The bribery records. The falsified safety reports. The shell company I'd created to launder money. The NDAs I'd paid to silence whistleblowers. 10 years of crimes, laid out in perfect detail. His message was simple, back off, or I send these to every prosecutor in the state. You'll go to prison. I'll disappear to a country with no extradition. Your choice, sis. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. He'd found my insurance policy. But how? Those files were encrypted, backed up in 3 separate secure locations. Someone had helped him access them. I called my father. Did you give Daniel access to my old files? Long pause. He said he needed them to understand the company's history. He said he wanted to learn from you. I gave him your master password. I thought. I hung up. My own father had armed my brother with the weapon to destroy me. I sat in the dark for hours, calculating my options. Every path led to prison or silence. Except one. I opened my contacts and dialed a number I hadn't called in 7 years. James answered on the second ring. Victoria? James's voice held surprise and something else. Concern, maybe. It's been 7 years. I know, I said. I need your help. After our divorce, James became a forensic accountant specializing in corporate fraud. He'd built a reputation taking down executives who thought they were untouchable. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'm sending you files, I continued. Everything. The bankruptcy. My brothers. Brennan. And everything I did. Every crime. Every compromise. I need you to tell me if there's any way out of this that doesn't end with me in prison. Silence stretched between us. Then, send them. 3 hours later, he called back. I've been going through the documents. Daniel sent me the same threat he sent you, probably trying to scare off anyone you might work with. My stomach dropped. And I've spent the last 72 hours building something. A case against Brennan, Daniel, and Marcus. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. Embezzlement. RICO violations. If they try to take you down, Victoria, they're coming with you. All of them. I closed my eyes. Why are you helping me? After everything I put you through? Because you deserved better than what they did to you, James said quietly. And because I know you're not the villain here, even if you think you are. James had one condition. If we do this, we do it right, he said. No more secrets. No more protecting your family. We expose everyone, Brennan, Daniel, Marcus, and yes, Victoria, you too. Full transparency. You come clean about everything you did, accept whatever consequences come, and we let justice sort it out. I'll go to prison, I said. Maybe. Probably. But you'll go knowing you finally chose the right thing over the easy thing. And Victoria? The people who lost their jobs, their pensions, their futures because of what your brothers did, they deserve to know the whole truth. Not just the parts that make you comfortable. I thought about those 700 employees. The single mothers. The men supporting families. The young people just starting out. They'd lost everything while my brothers partied in Monaco. Okay, I whispered. We do it your way. There's something else, James said. If you're going to confess, you need to face the people you hurt first. Not as penance. As preparation. You need to look them in the eye and understand the real cost of what you did. So I made a list. The inspector I'd bribed. The whistleblower I'd silenced. The families affected by the safety violations I'd covered up. And I started making visits. The first person I visited was Thomas Rivera. He'd been a safety inspector who'd tried to shut down our Chicago factory after the fire. I'd paid him $60,000 to change his report and retire early. He lived in a small house in the suburbs now. When he opened the door and saw me, his face went pale. I'm not here to threaten you, I said. I'm here to apologize. We sat in his kitchen. He made coffee neither of us drank. 3 people died in a factory fire in Ohio 2 years after I took your money, he said finally. Same building code violations I found in your factory. The company that owned it used my retirement as proof that inspectors were overly cautious. That safety concerns were exaggerated. I felt sick. I didn't know. No, he agreed. You just knew you needed that factory to stay open. You knew regulations were expensive. You didn't think about what happens when someone else uses your corruption to justify theirs. I visited 6 more people over 2 days. Each conversation carved another piece out of my soul. Each one showed me that my compromises hadn't just hurt me, they'd created ripples I'd never see, damage I'd never know about. By the end, I understood what I had to do. Monday morning. I stood at a podium facing 30 cameras and twice as many reporters. James stood beside me. Behind us, projected on a screen, bank records, emails, recorded conversations. I wore the same navy suit I'd worn the day I signed over Hayes Industries. A reminder of who I'd been. My name is Victoria Hayes, I began. 12 years ago, I made a choice to save my family's company. That choice led to others. Each one a compromise. Each one taking me further from the person I wanted to be. I detailed everything. The bribed inspectors. The falsified safety reports. The shell companies. The NDAs. My voice didn't shake. I owed these people the truth without hiding behind tears or excuses. Then I turned to the conspiracy. My brothers, Daniel and Marcus Hayes, along with Richard Brennan, orchestrated the bankruptcy of Hayes Industries. They stole $18 million, defrauded investors, and destroyed 700 lives for personal profit. The room erupted. I raised my hand. I'm not finished. I'm also turning myself in. I broke laws. I enabled corruption. I hurt people. I deserve to face consequences. As I stepped back from the podium, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Check your father's house. Now. I ran 6 red lights getting to my father's house. Smoke poured from the windows, thick and black against the afternoon sky. Fire trucks surrounded the property. Neighbors stood on their lawns, phones out, recording. I tried to run toward the building. A firefighter caught me. There's someone inside. I screamed. My father, he's inside. Ma'am, we're doing everything we can. 23 minutes. That's how long I stood there, watching my childhood home burn. 23 minutes of not knowing if my father was alive or dead. They brought him out on a stretcher, oxygen mask over his face, but conscious. In the ambulance, I gripped his hand. Marcus, he rasped. He called this morning. Said if you went through with the press conference, he'd make sure there was nothing left to fight over. I thought he was bluffing. My blood turned to ice. Where is Marcus now? I don't know. But Daniel called right before the fire started. He said to tell you, this is just the beginning. I looked back at the burning house. The place where I'd grown up. Where I'd sat at the end of the dinner table, invisible. Where I'd learned that nothing I did would ever be enough. My brothers weren't running anymore. They were coming for me. What would you do if your own family declared war on you? Comment below, because Victoria's fight is about to get much worse. I checked into a hotel under a fake name. James had insisted, said my apartment wasn't safe anymore. He was right. For 3 days, I lived out of a suitcase, watching the news coverage of my press conference loop endlessly. My face on every channel. Disgraced executive confesses. Hayes family civil war. Corporate fraud whistleblower or criminal. Daniel and Marcus had vanished completely. No paper trail. No sightings. The SEC had frozen Brennan's assets, but he'd posted $5 million in bail and disappeared too. James called every few hours with updates. They know you have more evidence. They're going to come for it. And for you. On the 4th night, I woke to someone standing in my hotel room. Marcus. He looked nothing like the spoiled boy I remembered. Thinner. Harder. His eyes were hollow, like he hadn't slept in days. I'm not here to hurt you, he said, hands raised. I'm here to warn you. My hand found my phone under the pillow. Get out. Daniel made a deal with Brennan, Marcus said quickly. They're going to frame you for everything. The collapse. The fraud. Even the fire. They have witnesses. Forged documents. Everything. Victoria, you need to run. Now. Why are you telling me this? Marcus sat down in the hotel chair, his hands shaking. Because I'm tired, Vic. So tired. Tired of running, tired of lying, tired of being Daniel's puppet. You set our father's house on fire, I said. No. His voice cracked. Daniel did. He told me to call Dad and threaten him, make it sound convincing. I thought it was just a scare tactic. I didn't know he'd actually. He put his head in his hands. I didn't know. I studied my younger brother. He'd always been the follower. The one who went along because it was easier than standing up to Daniel. This was supposed to be easy money, Marcus continued. Daniel said we'd just restructure the company, sell it for profit, everyone wins. But then it became about hurting you. About proving he was better than you. And Brennan, God, Brennan played us both. He has everything now, and we have nothing. What do you want from me? I asked. I'll testify, Marcus said. Against Daniel. Against Brennan. I'll tell them everything. But only if you promise me one thing, that you'll make sure Dad knows I'm sorry. Before I could answer, the hotel room door exploded inward. Daniel stood in the doorway, Richard Brennan beside him. Marcus is you idiot, Daniel said, holding up his phone. I told you she'd manipulate you. He turned the screen toward us. A recording app, red light blinking. He'd captured our entire conversation. This proves you conspired with Victoria after her press conference, Daniel said to Marcus. Congratulations, little brother. You just became an accessory after the fact. Brennan stepped forward, smiling that same predatory smile I remembered from 10 years ago. Ms. Hayes, you've made this very difficult. But Daniel and I have reached an arrangement. He testifies that you masterminded the entire collapse, that you orchestrated the bankruptcy to cover your own crimes, and we make all charges against him disappear. I looked at Daniel. Really looked at him. My brother. The boy I'd protected my entire life. You'd really send me to prison? I asked. You started this war at that press conference, Daniel said. I'm just finishing it. You always thought you were smarter than everyone, Vic. But you forgot the most important rule, family takes care of family. And you stopped being family the moment you betrayed us. I smiled. A real smile, for the first time in weeks. Actually, Daniel, you just finished yourself. I pointed to the laptop in the corner. James, did you get all that? James stepped out from the bathroom, laptop in hand, headphones around his neck. Every word. Including Brennan admitting to the arrangement and Daniel acknowledging the conspiracy on tape. Daniel's face went white. You called the police the moment Marcus walked into this room? James finished. Yes. They've been listening from the parking lot. Should be here in about. He checked his watch. 3 minutes. Brennan lunged for the laptop. Marcus, my weak follower brother Marcus, tackled him to the ground. I'm done, Marcus said. I'm done with all of it. Daniel ran. Made it to the elevator before 2 FBI agents stepped out and put him in handcuffs. Through the hotel room doorway, I watched my brother scream about his rights, about his lawyers, about how this was all a setup. Brennan was quieter. Professional. He looked at me as they led him away and said, "You'll still go to prison, Victoria. Everything you confessed to, that's all on record now." I know, I said. But I'll go knowing I finally chose truth over survival. Can you say the same? He didn't answer. Marcus received immunity in exchange for his testimony. Daniel and Brennan were held without bail, facing 17 counts each. And me? I had one more person to face. 3 months later, I stood outside the courthouse in the same navy suit. My father waited by his car, the only one he had left after selling everything to pay restitution. 2 years probation, I told him. Community service. Restitution payments. I kept my CPA license, but I'll never work in corporate finance again. He looked older. Smaller. I'm sorry, Victoria. For everything. For not seeing you. For choosing them. I know, I said. But I don't need your apology anymore, Dad. I needed it 12 years ago. Now? I just need to move forward. James pulled up in his car. In the passenger seat sat a cardboard box full of file folders. What's that? My father asked. 3 women called me after the press conference, I said. They were pushed out of companies they built. Forced to hand over control to brothers, husbands, sons. They want to know how to fight back. I opened the car door. I'm starting something new. Victoria Hayes Consulting, helping women reclaim what's theirs. Not Hayes Industries, my father asked quietly. I looked back at him one last time. No. Something better. Something clean. Something that's actually mine. I got in the car. James smiled. Ready? I've been ready for 12 years, I said. Let's build something worth keeping this time. The office is small. 3 rooms above a coffee shop in Brooklyn. No marble floors. No floor-to-ceiling windows. Just desks, computers, and filing cabinets full of evidence. We've taken on 14 cases so far. Daughters erased from family businesses. Wives who built companies with their husbands, only to be divorced and pushed out. Women whose ideas were stolen by male colleagues. We don't always win. But we fight. James handles the forensic accounting. I handle strategy. Together, we've recovered $42 million for clients who were told they deserved nothing. My father visits sometimes. We have coffee. We don't talk about Hayes Industries. There's nothing left to say about it. Daniel is serving 8 years for fraud and conspiracy. Brennan got 15. Marcus testified against them both and now works at a non-profit helping formerly incarcerated people find jobs. We talk once a month. It's awkward, but it's honest. This morning, a woman named Sarah called. Her 3 brothers bankrupted the restaurant chain she spent 20 years building. She's 53 and they told her she's too old to fight back. I smiled and opened a new file folder. Sarah, I said, let me tell you what I learned about people who underestimate us. They always lose. I lost everything to discover what I was really worth. It wasn't the company. It wasn't my father's approval. It was the ability to look myself in the mirror and know I finally chose truth over comfort. Have you ever had to burn down your old life to build something real? Tell me your story in the comments, because your truth might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.